Hello everyone, this is Jackie's reviewing movie. In this issue, let's take a look at a sci-fi suspense film, Deja Vu, starring Denzel Washington. On this day, a group of Navy and tourists boarding a ferry to start their happy holiday. After the ferry set sail, a staff member in the cargo area on the ground floor heard music from a car. He was about to take a closer look when the time bomb in the car exploded. The entire ferry was blown up instantly, killing more than 500 people. The U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives sent Douglas to investigate. Based on the fragments of electric detonators found at the scene, he concluded that this was a premeditated terrorist attack. Douglas returned to the office and his colleague told him that there was a girl called to ask about his height and skin color and left her phone number. Douglas called back and left a message when no one answered. At this time, the police station informed him that he found a female body floating in the water. There were extensive burns on the back of the female body. She was thought to be a victim of the bombing at first, but the time of discovery was before the bombing. Douglas carefully inspected her body and found that the deceased's mouth was sealed with tape. It was deduced that this should be a murder case. After investigation, the name of the dead was Claire. Douglas came to Claire's residence and found "You can save her" on the refrigerator. The content of the newspaper next to Claire was selling used cars. Then Douglas found a lot of bloody gauze by the pool. He opened the phone to leave a message and heard his voice. Only then did he know that the girl who called the office to find him was Claire. Douglas concluded that Claire should have been killed 2 hours before the ferry exploded. Then the murderer disguised her as an explosion victim. The car Claire was about to sell might have been stolen to transport the bombs to the ferry. The bomber had direct contact with Claire during her lifetime, so if Claire's case was solved, the bombing case was solved. At this time, Douglas saw his partner Larry's car. He knew that Larry, who was about to go on vacation, was also killed on this ferry. The FBI appreciated Douglas's keen insight, so they invited him to join the newly formed investigation team. The investigative team was located at a military martial law base. They had a very powerful monitoring project called Snow White. This project can monitor what happened before 4 days, 6 hours, 3 minutes, and 45 seconds at any coordinate position in the target area. But the disadvantage was that these pictures could only be seen at a glance and couldn't be rewarded, so they needed people like Douglas who could find key information just by scanning the crime scene. Douglas suggested starting from Claire's house. At this moment, he and Claire faced each other across the screen, and he felt like déjà vu. Soon they saw Claire received a call from a buyer. The man wanted to buy Claire's used car. The investigation team traced the suspect in a phone booth, but the light was too dark to see the face from the surveillance video. Fortunately, the suspect's whereabouts were traced based on the suspect's backpack. Gradually, Douglas suspected that the Snow White project was not a simple monitoring device. What he saw was not the so-called surveillance image. To verify his doubts, he quietly pointed the laser pointer at the screen. Unexpectedly, Claire in the picture 4 days ago also saw this light spot. It turned out that current behavior could truly affect the world 4 days ago. Under the pressure of Douglas, the technician told him that the Snow White project was actually a machine that made a wormhole through a window of time to observe what happened 4 days ago. Douglas thought that since light could go back in time, other things could also be transmitted back. So he asked the technician to send a warning note to himself 4 days ago. The note stated when and where the suspect would appear. Douglas hoped to catch the suspect before the bombing. The note was passed, but unfortunately, it was seen by his partner Larry. Larry traced the suspect based on the information on the note and was shot by the suspect. Then the suspect dragged the dying Larry into the car and fled the scene. Seeing that the suspect was about to escape from the target area, only the mirror device could collect data outside the target area. Douglas didn't have time to think, so he drove with his eyepieces to track down the suspect. The technician connected the screen and saw the scene 4 days ago behind the mirror. To catch up with the suspect, Douglas went the wrong way all the way and caused many traffic accidents and nearly crashed the car. Fortunately, the last trace of the suspect was traced without danger. The technician saw the scene 4 days ago on the screen. The suspect dragged Larry out of the car to take a shot and burned his body. Douglas found out that they passed the note back only to change the way Larry died and did not prevent the ferry's bombing from happening. It was also because Larry broke the windshield of the suspect's car when he saw the note to stop the suspect. So the suspect needed a new car to transport the bomb to the ferry. That made Claire the target of the suspect. Immediately afterward, the investigation team used facial recognition to lock the identity of the suspect and arrested him. At this point, the task of the EBI investigation team was over, but Douglas hoped to be sent back to the past through the wormhole to save Claire and prevent the ferry bombing from happening. The technicians said this operation would be dangerous. Because when a person traveled through an electromagnetic field, electromagnetic pulses would annihilate all activities related to electricity including human heartbeat, brain waves, etc. But Douglas was determined to travel back to the past and changed history. After a burst of light scanning, Douglas was successfully transported to a hospital, but his condition was not very good. The doctor had no time to surprise this patient who fell from the sky. They rescued Douglas immediately. Douglas woke up, snatched an ambulance and hurried to the suspect's residence. At this time, the suspect had already poured diesel on Claire. He drove into the house when the suspect was about to do it. While the two sides quarreled, the suspect slipped out to light the gas cylinder in the warehouse. What he didn't expect was that Douglas took Claire to avoid the explosion. Then Douglas came to Claire's house to clean the wound. He changed the letters on the refrigerator into, "You can save her." Then there were a lot of bloody gauzes when cleaning the wound. Claire saw that Douglas was familiar with everything in her house and thought he was a bad guy. To prove his identity, Douglas asked Claire to call his office. So Claire called and asked about Douglas's height and skin color. At this time, Douglas realized that he hadn't changed anything. Letters on the refrigerator, bloody gauze, and Claire's phone. Everything was developing according to the original script. He hurriedly took Claire to the dock. Douglas planned to follow the suspect quietly, and then went to the ferry to dismantle the bomb after the suspect set the bomb and left. They boarded the ferry and found Claire's car. When the suspect walked off the ferry and was about to leave on a motorcycle, he saw his car. The suspect knew that the bomb he planted on the ferry had been found. So he ran back to the ferry. Claire jumped on the ferry because she was worried about the safety of Douglas after seeing it. Unexpectedly, she was discovered by the suspect as soon as she ran to her car. The suspect tied her up and locked her in a car containing a bomb. Immediately after the suspect shot and killed a staff member, he turned on the crazy strafe mode and killed everyone. After Douglas arrived, he killed the suspect with Claire's cooperation. The time for the bomb to detonate was about to come. Douglas and Claire drove into the river. After trying hard to rescue Claire, the ferry passing by squeezed the fan and the car was trapped inside and couldn't escape. Soon the bomb in the car was detonated. Douglas used his life to stop the tragedy of the ferry bombing. Just as Claire was grieving for the death of Douglas, he was walking towards her from a distance. But Douglas didn't seem to know Claire. In fact, this was because Douglas at this time and Douglas who just died came from different parallel universes. The dead Douglas came across from another parallel universe, and Douglas who was alive at this time was Douglas in the parallel world we saw now. Okay, this is the end of this issue. Friends who like it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, see you next time.